I'm Melissa from Jam Jar Flowers. We were gutted when we heard that Chelsea Flower Show was being cancelled this year, but in fact we're able to show you what happened to our installation that we did for the London Gate last year. We brought all the flowers back to this amazing community garden very close to our studio. The flowers were planted up and they've just come into bloom, and we're going to use some to preserve and press for you in our demonstration this afternoon.
Hi, it's Amy at Jam Jar Flowers here, and I'm here in Melissa's garden in Brixton, and I am going to give you a demonstration on flower pressing. So I've got my flower press here, and I'm going to start layering it off, and I always use a nice sturdy piece of card in the bottom, and then next goes a piece of blotting paper. Now the idea for flower pressing is to draw all of the moisture out of the flowers and to give it lots of even pressure throughout the press. And so we use blotting paper, which is really, really good paper to draw all of that moisture out quite quickly and efficiently. So I've got a little geum here that's a totally tangerine geum. And what you're looking for when you're pressing flowers is either a very kind of delicate structure all over, or something with a very flat petal structure. And what we need to do is, on your blotting paper, you can really kind of arrange the flowers as you want them, and it's often easier to place the flowers face down to get more kind of control over your final composition of what the flowers are going to look like when they come out. So you're also looking for is to give the flowers plenty of space around the paper so that the paper can really draw out the moisture. And you want to make sure everything's really tucked in, so no stems or leaves or petals are poking out the sides of the press. Then what we'll do is go in with another piece of blotting paper on the top. So you're making a kind of blotting paper sandwich, and then give it a good press down, because these are all going to get pressed down in the press anyway. Then we basically start that process again. So next we'll go a piece of card, and this is going to act as almost like a barrier layer in between the layers of moisture that are between the blotting paper. And then basically continue with that process. What else have we got here? So this is a beautiful Anthriscus raven's wing, which has got this amazing black leaf and a black stem. That's going to press beautifully, but obviously that doesn't fit in our press, so I'm going to actually take that apart. And depending on what you want to use your flowers, your pressed flowers for later, which I'll show you some things that you can do with them, you can kind of take larger stems apart, and they can always be reconstructed later when they're pressed. We usually leave it for around a week before we check on the flowers again. Then you open your press up and check on them, and if any of this paper is feeling damp underneath where the flower heads are, then you might want to just change out the paper, because what you're trying to do is to keep it really, really dry inside the press at all times. And that's going to get the best results out of your flowers. You also want to press flowers when they're at their freshest, so get the flowers into the press the day that you've picked them, ideally, and that is going to give them the best chance of keeping their structure and keeping their colour. So we've found that we've had really good results with their little heads keeping their colour. So this Aquilegia here has got quite a chunky stem, but I think he's going to press just fine. And what I'll do with this leaf that's I've just taken off there is I'll press that separately. I've got lots of heads on the same stem here, so I'm just going to try and give them as much room on the paper as possible. But I am going to try and press it as one specimen. What else have we got? We've got Californian poppy that should be popping up in some of your gardens now. They press amazingly well. because they're such a delicate petal structure, and you could either do this face down or in profile. It'll look beautiful either way. Maybe we'll put that way and just bend the stem down there. And we've also got the bud as well that we've cut separately, and the leaves press beautifully. So that is a great one from your garden. It's going to be coming up over the next month or two. And what I said before about the petals, the structure being quite delicate here, if you get something like I don't know, a rose or a peony or a tulip or ranunculus have got a very complex petal structure, and there's lots and lots of moisture in their head, so they're not going to be good pressers. So look out for things in your garden with a nice little delicate petal structure. So that is our press full. I could probably keep on going for a bit with this, but I'm going to stop there just to show you the next bit of the process. And so what would happen now is you tighten your wing nuts that will come with your press onto these little screws here, press it really firmly down, and you want to get a nice even pressure across that whole press. Leave this for a week before you check on your flowers, and when you go in to check the flowers, just make sure none of the paper's too damp. If it is, then change out the paper for a fresh sheet. It normally takes sort of 3 to 4 weeks for flowers to press, depending on what they are, but what you're looking for when they're ready is a real papery and dry touch. So yeah, we'll leave that for a week, and then we'll have a look at what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to show you the next step of the process, which is opening your flower press. And all of the flowers that are in this one here have been in here for, I'd say, about a week to 10 days. And they've been in my nice warm house. So this is a press full of little geums, which are actually feeling quite dry and papery already. They could maybe do some of them with a few more days, maybe, but these ones here that we've kind of archived like this are feeling quite ready. Let's see what we've got in here. When you're opening your press, it's good to just check the paper. Do it really carefully, just because the flowers can often get stuck to the paper because of the moisture in their heads. If the paper feels damp underneath the flower heads, just either change the flowers round so they're on the opposite side, or you can put a whole fresh piece of paper in there. These are feeling really great. So there's loads of different things that we can do with pressed flowers, and at Jam Jar we tend to keep them on their own, you know, in a single kind of stem, or to make a composition out of the same type of flower. So this is just a type of mount board that we use at Jam Jar, and when we start to kind of put the flowers back together, so what I was saying before, if your flowers are too big for the press, you can always take them apart and then start to construct them into a composition. So when you start to actually build a composition like this, it looks quite pretty. And what I would do here is we use glue to secure the flowers into place, and we use this little glue here called Mod Podge, which has got a great name. It's kind of a water-based glue, quite delicate. You can also use things like Japanese rice glue. Something like a natural glue is really good. You could also masking tape them on, which looks amazing, and it's kind of what the Edwardians used to do, is just to masking tape the flowers into position, and then you could frame them, which also works really well. I might just show you quickly, if you wanted to do something like a little glass frame like this, because the flowers are super delicate. What else have we got? We've got little pansies over here. That might be nice. So because they're so papery and delicate, they would just slip out of the frame if you didn't put any kind of glue or tape in place. So if I wanted to make this into a little frame, for instance, I just put this on a bit of scrap piece of paper, and I use a really delicate little brush and my Mod Podge. And what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to secure it into place. I don't need to glue the whole thing, and what you're looking for is to find the the kind of most sturdy part of the flower, which is just here in the centre, and just brush your glue really gently from the centre out. You don't want to get too much on there because the petals are so delicate that they'll sometimes kind of shrivel, and also the stem is quite good and the leaf as well. So I'm just going to put a little bit on here, and you might want kind of tweezers for this little delicate operation. You might also want to put something on your frame or your paper to mark it in place. We use the same technique for doing our bigger pictures as well, and that would be kind of, yeah, a sweet little frame for your house. So thanks so much for joining us, and thanks to the RHS for having us. You can check us out at Jam Jar Flowers or Jam Jar Edit, which is our online shop. Yeah, and come and have a look at what we do. Thanks so much.